Ari and the Secret of Seasons is an action-adventure game developed by Brussels-based Exit and published by Modus. We've had our eye on this one for a while, so how does it hold up? The game is set in the world of Valdi, which is split into 4 lands where the seasons are perpetual, and this leads us to the story's main plot. The seasons have switched around, with the land of winter being replaced with the lush green fields of spring, and the land of summer, well, you get the point. And thus it falls to the eponymous heroine to put everything back the way it was. Naturally, I'll say little more on the story itself, but the formula here clearly takes influence from the Legend of Zelda series. To fight the big bad evil, you need to troll through trials and dungeons, defeating enemies and puzzles, unlocking new items and abilities as you go. However, the game is more focused on the storytelling and overworld than it is in these dungeons. Now that's not a negative point, mind. The story is enjoyable, never taking itself seriously, it's light-hearted and whimsical, and has a good sense of humour. Looking at how the game plays then, we should first address a major bug on the PC side. Trying to play the game with a controller resulted in an infinite loading screen, which is ironic as the short load times are actually one of the good points to this game. This could be a deal breaker for some, but it won't affect the console releases, and it should be fairly easy to patch out. For that reason, we had to play on keyboard and mouse. Control-wise, the game is simple enough, needing little time to get used to. Navigating the world felt smooth, albeit with the occasionally poorly placed invisible wall or random teleportation. The platforming feels precise and fair, yet is still challenging. And exploring the world is encouraged too, with hidden chests and collectibles strewn around for you to find. These aren't needed to beat the game, but for those with a collecting addiction, there's a few different sorts to search for. These can be seen on the minimap when within range, so you'll always be aware if something is nearby, just don't expect it to be easy to spot. Let's talk about combat, which is one of the primary mechanics in the game. It's fairly simple, consisting of spamming the attack button, occasionally dodging, and hitting parry when prompted. On normal difficulty, this makes for easy and after a while unsatisfying combat, which is exasperated by the lack of enemy variance. There is one primary enemy in the game, being hyenas, who often move and attack in the same way. There are a few archetypes, such as armoured or shielded, but they all feel much the same. Each area does have a couple of unique enemies, such as mushrooms or sentient cacti, but there are not enough of these to make each area feel as though it has its own ecosystem. Something that I will make mention of here, when enemies die they drop any weapon that they were holding. If this weapon happens to be spiky and you touch it, you will take damage, meaning that the danger persists even after the enemies are felled. Now we don't know if this is intentional or not, and whilst recording this, I can't think of any other game that does this. If it was on purpose, it's a nice touch that we liked. If it's a bug, maybe leave that one in. Back to the fighting, we should also make mention of the boss fights. These are each unique, with interesting and fun mechanics to try and work out. Honestly, we wish there were more dungeons, as these boss fights were a real big highlight for us. As for what you fight with, there are several weapons available to you throughout the game, however, there seems to be no differences between them, with a big club swinging just as fast and doing the same damage as a tiny wooden sword. This is a big miss in our view. That's not to say that upgrading your character isn't present. As you progress, you will find coins which can be spent to improve your damage, health regen, etc. It's a simple system, but it works. The standout mechanic is, of course, Ari's ability to control the seasons within a set range. This plays a major part in dungeons, with winter revealing blocks of ice or spring a flowing river. This plays a part in combat too, with ice-wielding hyenas disarmed by switching the season to summer, or angry cacti slowed with a winter chill. This is well implemented, with puzzles necessitating the mixing and matching of season in the right way to progress. As for those puzzles, they're pretty good, and at times can cause a pause, but don't expect an Ocarina Water dungeon. We more often found ourselves confused due to a dead-end room than we did with the actual puzzles, though they were fun to overcome. Onto the looks then. The game's world is well crafted, with each area and season having sufficient variance to feel unique and distinct. The oversaturated colours and cartoony design make for a pleasant viewing experience, at least most of the time. On several occasions we encountered issues with flickering geometry, as you can see on screen now. And at one point we encountered this. The characters then are not as well designed. They look perfectly fine at a distance, but they feel distinctly last gen when you get up close. As for the voices well used, the actors have done a fantastic job. They capture the personality of their characters perfectly, and are one of the key factors in why the story is so enjoyable. Musically, it's another home run, with the orchestral scores being excellently composed, timed, and appropriate to every setting and scenario. Ambient sounds are a little on the average side, but they are always appropriate. Overall, Ari and the Secret of Seasons is a good game for action-adventure fans who want something light-hearted and fun. Due to the nature and extent of bugs, on PC we score it 6 out of 10. However, trusting that the developers will iron out these issues quickly, we're going to make that a tentative 7. If you like the format of Legend of Zelda, but also the silly humour of Banjo-Kazooie, then this is for you, if you can handle the bugs, and if you don't mind the more simplistic combat. With around 10 to 15 hours of gameplay at hand, £35 is a little steep for those who don't fall into that paradigm, and we would suggest letting it drop to around £20. If this sounds like your thing, however, then it's a decent price. Let us know your thoughts below, and if there are any upcoming titles you'd like us to take a look at. And with that, we thank you for watching, and we'll catch you